With all the add-ons, weak auras, and plater profiles, we can often forget that WoW by itself has some useful settings worth looking at that most veteran players take for granted. So if you're just starting out, here are some useful gameplay settings for you to look at and consider. We're going to be looking at these settings from top to bottom as they appear in the Options tab. In the General tab, the noteworthy settings are Sticky Targeting, Auto Loot, and Combined Bags. Sticky Targeting will not defocus your current target if you click on the ground. This is good for high pressure scenarios so that you don't suddenly lose your target and you're left wondering why you can't cast any of your spells and your character keeps yelling at you that they don't have a target. Auto loot is just a convenience. With the huge backspace and the abundance of mounts with vendors, we really don't need to think about what we loot. Just loot everything and sell it later. So instead of having to press shift every time we loot or, God forbid, clicking on all the items individually, just tick this box and watch the items start rolling in. Combined bags is really just up to you. I think it makes the bags take up less screen space and makes the items easier to find. But some people might just prefer the aesthetic, and who am I to judge? The interface tab houses a lot of important settings. Since much of WoW can be made easier with the right information displayed at the right time, I would highly encourage you to really take your time in this tab and experiment. Larger nameplates, as the name suggests, just makes the enemy and ally nameplates larger, which makes the text a lot easier to read. Also, if no one has told you yet, you can toggle the enemy nameplates with V and ally nameplates with Ctrl V. This one is again up to you. To test it out, I would recommend running a few dungeons in the normal way and then running some more with the larger ones and seeing which ones you prefer. On nameplates, stacking nameplates is a setting that I think everyone should turn on. It stops the nameplates from overlapping with each other and opts instead to stack them vertically. This is useful because we can now clearly see all of the names, cast bars, buffs and debuffs of our enemies, which makes it easier for us to make decisions on our next actions. It also has the benefit of making the nameplates easier to click on and not having to rely on tab switching to select the target we want. Outline mode can be useful if you want to really distinguish which NPC is the one you're targeting, just so you can be sure you're not casting or attacking something that you didn't actually want to. For the status text, I would recommend setting it to a percentage. Yeah, if you didn't know, status text actually talks about text that will be displayed on your health bar. This can be useful, especially if some buffs or abilities depend on you being at a certain health threshold. Otherwise, it can be useful just to say you survived on some crazy pull with 1% HP. I'm gonna talk about all the notable raid frame options in bulk, because they all relate to each other. Raid frames are usually displayed when you're in a raid group. Duh. But you can also use the raid frames in your dungeon parties. You do it by going into edit mode, enabling the party frames, clicking on them and then ticking the box that says use raid style party frames. We're gonna be talking more about the edit mode a little later, so hold on for now. I recommend toggling the display only healer power bars option. This way you'll know if you're overwhelming your healer and you need to slow down, or if you need to rely more on self heals for a while your healer's mana recovers. Resources of DPS and tanks usually don't matter too much. The next option I would highly recommend is the class colors option. This will color the raid frame depending on the class. This is good if you know that some buff you have might be really good for a certain class, or if you're a paladin, you want to make sure to free the melee classes first, and so on. Don't worry if you don't know the class colors yet. You can hover over the frame and the class will be displayed, so you'll learn over time. You can also toggle to display only dispellable debuffs. This is useful if your class has a dispel or a decur so that you can see at a glance which player can use your assistance. For the display health text, it's the same as the status text we discussed earlier. I would mostly recommend putting it on percentage, but here I don't think the option is as important. Maybe it's more important for healers, but I don't delve into them enough to know if their heals have some health percentage conditions. In the action bar section, the only notable option is the show numbers on cooldowns, and how this isn't on by default I don't know. What this does is that instead of a transparent black cover that slowly ticks down over your abilities, an actual timer gets displayed so that you know the second your abilities are off cooldown. I shouldn't really need to explain why this is a good thing. Having the ability to sync your offensive spells, maybe pull some resources for a big DPS cooldown, can have serious impacts on your performance in a dungeon or raid. The personal resource display is on by default now, which is great, as it gives you vital information in the part of the screen where you'll be looking at the most, the center. Here are just some more settings if you want to tweak it further. These are highly personal, so I suggest you play around with them and figure out the configuration that works best for you. As a side note, if anyone can tell me what the Show Personal Cooldowns checkbox does, I'd love to hear it. Other than the personal resource display, the other notable option here is the mouse over cast. This can be good for healers so they don't always have to click the player they want to heal. But there are quite a lot of add-ons that do this way better, so consider looking into those. If people keep randomly trading you, or more likely people keep randomly inviting you to guilds, there are options to block both of these in the social tab and steer clear of any pesky social interactions. And now a quick shoutouts to my dyslexics out there. Blizzard has added options to change the background color of the quest text, which makes it a lot easier to read for me, so maybe it'll help you out too. There are quite a few options, so look around to find the one that best suits you. Now to one of the greatest settings available that you can't even find in the Options tab. That's right, it's the Edit mode. You can access it from the System menu by clicking Escape or by right-clicking your character portrait. This mode allows you to completely customize your UI experience and make it your own. I'm not gonna give you a specific guide on how this should look. Here's what I generally like, but I understand that people will have their own preferences when it comes to this. You can create your own profiles and even import them from someone else if you like the look of them. The general guidance for anything UI related is to keep more important information closer to the center of the screen, since that's where you're looking at most of the time. On that note, the minimap, chat, quest text and character menus can all go somewhere on the side, while your health bar, abilities, raid frames and other vital elements should probably be placed somewhere near the center. There do, of course, exist add-ons, which can even further enhance your WoW playing experience, but I think having a strong understanding of the things already available to you will give you more informed opinion on what add-ons you actually need when you decide to get them, and will keep you safe from the dreaded add-on bloat. And of course, you aren't just limited to the settings I mentioned here. There are a bunch more you can play with. I just highlighted the ones I think are especially important for someone just starting out. Now go out there and set up WoW the way you want to. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful to you. If you have any suggestions or questions, you can leave them in the comments below. If you liked this video, consider liking it. If you like my content, consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.